I had the chance to speak with John Alexander Barnhardt, who is the director of An Open Door, Temple Grandin, a documentary feature that will screen at this year's Kansas City Film Fest on Saturday, April 15th at 1:15 p.m. The director will be in attendance at the film festival with a Q&A with the director immediately following their screening. You can get tickets right now at kcfilmfest.org. All right, so to start out, in your own words, John, tell us what the documentary An Open Door is all about.
Yeah, so this is the Open Door is the first movie that we, kind of made, that's been made on Temple Grandin pre like her career after, 30 when the Claire Danes movie came out. It stopped right before she went and got her doctorate degree. But between that time and now, she's written 12 books and 500 articles and done so much work in animal science, education, and neurodiversity. And this movie is just kind of examining that. And we feel now at 76 years old, Temple is even more relevant than she was maybe 20, 30 years ago. And we want to kind of reintroduce people to Temple, and we want people to see that some of her ideas can kind of help people in this kind of tumultuous time, maybe look inside and also help outside to their problems. So the whole movie is kind of to, you know, reintroduce Temple and kind of look at yourself inward and outward. So
Yeah. And, like a lot of people, I had been introduced to Temple through the HBO movie. And so to now see her in her own words through this documentary was so fascinating. I really want to know, what was it like to get to meet Temple and work with her directly on this documentary?
so when I first met Temple, it was like in this horse barn, and I was like, all
Mm.
right, cool. In my time of 27 years making movies, I've ran into some famous people. So I'm like, I won't be that starstruck. But when I walked in, she has like this movie star presence, she's got the bolo on, she's got this, the cool shirts. And I was like, wow, man, I'm kind of, all right, kind of intimidated. But when I met her, she was so cool. She is blunt force trauma honest
Mm.
and just kind of wholesome. So we kind of connected pretty well just because she kind of, I don't know, we just connected. And then from that moment on, first thing we did is we all went out to get tacos and we kind of bonded. And then we kind of laid out our plan for this movie. And then we kind of just, I think she travels alone. Temple doesn't have like an assistant that travels with her. She does all of these travels alone. She's on the road right now and
Mm.
her schedule is so packed. So I think that she really appreciated us being there because we can help her like navigate things. And then she also had company. So by being on the road with her book tour, because she just released Visual Thinking,
Mm.
we kind of all bonded. So when we did do the interviews, it was like we'd already kind of talked about these ideas in the car, on the airplane, and everything. So we became friends very quickly. And, I mean, the biggest, thing for me is I really appreciate the film doing what it's doing and having impact on people. But the school gave me 8 work study students, and I taught at a film school in Charleston, South Carolina for 10 years. So I got to do hands-on learning. And when Temple saw what we were doing with the hands-on learning stuff, she was all in on the movie because she feels that that's one of the aspects that's missing from education. So knowing that we were doing our very best to tell, you know, her story, but also apply what she's trying to put back into education, she had our backs the whole way and she trusted us. And I think that if you're making a documentary or even a narrative, the first thing you got to do is get your crew to trust you
Mm.
and get your actors or your subject to trust you. And then when you do that, I think you set your film up for success.
And yeah, it definitely shows through with this documentary. Really fascinating to hear from her, and you can tell that you and the crew really poured your heart and soul into this documentary. You mentioned working, as a professor in film, and I was reading a little bit about your background. In your own words, you said you went from filming god awful but well shot horror flicks to then building up an Emmy award-winning career in film and TV. So we'll have a lot of, young filmmaking talent at the festival. So I wanted to know, what would, in your own words, what's the driving force behind your career, and what advice would you give to young filmmakers looking to build up their own resume in film and television?
I think for young filmmakers, movie makers, or anything, is don't be afraid to make mistakes. You'll learn more from your mistakes than you will your successes, and always try to make the best project you possibly can. Don't be mediocre. Even if
Mm.
that project falls short, at least you know that you put all your heart and effort into it, and your next one will be better. Don't get, kind of don't feel bad or anything. Just keep pushing forward. I mean, that's what this whole thing, filmmaking is. This industry's tough. This industry will eat you alive if you let it. But if you dig your heels in and you do projects that you believe in, then you can make it work. But always, you're as good as your last project. So, but use that project, what you learn, to make your next project. I apply that stuff all the time to what I do. I mean,
Mm.
I'm still a student of film. I'm not like on top. I eat, breathe, and drink it. I watch all the
Mm.
movies. I watch all the classics. I study the classics. I make sure that, I'm pretty deliberate in my filmmaking. And any young filmmaker out there, I think it's learn how to tell a visual story, live by the three H's, be happy, find something you're hungry about, but always be humble. Don't ever like think you're better than the person next to you. Believe in yourself and have confidence, but don't pontificate that out. Be humble, because you could work with these people, be able to work with your crew, and be able to let things go sometimes too. If you're directing and writing, let someone else kind of edit it first. Let it go.
Mm.
And your movies will always be better. And as long as you keep going, you'll always make it. The only reason you won't make it might not be at the level you want. You might not be like a Coppola or Scorsese, but if you're making projects, you'll be able to do that if you keep going. The only one that'll kind of stop you is if you stop. But everyone will make it in this industry if they keep going, I think.
Yeah,
That's sort of my advice. That's what I tell my students all the time. I also tell them to, you know, be silent and speak, just behave, man. So
yeah, it's good advice. So, yeah, just to kind of close it out, what are you most excited for everyone to discover with this documentary, and also learning more about Temple Grandin?
I think, like I said, Temple is, I think, more relevant now. I think the
Mhm.
idea, and she goes through seasons, like one of her seasons was, talking about autism. The next was solving, the cattle thing. But like she just wants to solve problems. And I think right now people are afraid to kind of talk about who they are.
Mm.
And I think Temple is allowing people to say, man, I got dyslexia. I have
Mm.
autism, and I think differently. Her new book, Visual Thinking, talks about pattern thinkers, visual thinkers, and verbal thinkers. The world needs all of those to kind of work, but like, don't be, don't feel bad because you can't do math. Don't feel bad because you can't do A, B, and C. It's okay to talk about those things. And I hope this movie has that sort of impact when people walk away from this movie and they're driving home, because that's all I want to do. I just want to make movies that people think about from when they watch it to when they go home, and they say, man, I'm a visual thinker, and I'm going to start approaching my life like that, and I'm going to be okay, you know, instead of people that are math people and they kind of tell the visual thinkers like, oh, if you can't do math, you're going to go into remedial classes. It's like, you don't know what's out there, man. You don't know who's out there, and you don't know who's sitting next to you in your classroom, and I hope that
Mm.
this movie also inspires people to be better to each other. Temple
Mm.
talks a lot about being bullied, and I think that people might subconsciously bully people. They might not know they're doing it. So I think people have to be open, engage in better conversations with each other, because you never know. You might be sitting next to the next Temple Grandin, and they'll remember you. And now you both are on the same path. So that's what I hope people get out of it is, you know, it's okay to be who you are. And you probably will make a difference if you just kind of believe in yourself.
Yeah, and this film illustrates that, you know, in an excellent way, I feel like, and just hearing Temple's story is super fascinating, super inspiring. So I definitely encourage everyone to come out to the festival and see it. You will be you'll be in attendance with the festival, Right.
I've wanted to get into your festival, like my whole kind of film. Your festival and Santa Fe festival are like the two
Mm,
festivals as a kid coming from Colorado. Is
mm,
like I want to get into those two because I love Kansas City, the
mm.
city out, and I think your festival is fantastic. And so we're just so grateful, and we'll be there in person. Temple's on the road, but we could talk to anyone about it. I want to be engaged with the audience. If they have any questions, I'll be right there. So we're probably wearing the same outfit. So
Awesome. So yeah, it will be so awesome to get to watch the film together, with you and with an audience in Kansas City. So I want to thank you so much for speaking with me, and to everyone, go see this movie, Open Door.
yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. So.
Yep.